Discovery's president and CEO David Zaslav. He was a longtime mentee of Welch, spent a lot of time with him through the years. I know David in meetings and, of course, on the golf course as well. Give me your thoughts on Jack's passing, David.
It's really hard to put into words, really. I would say I've never met anybody that loved life more than Jack, really to the bitter end. He loved his family. He loved Susie. He loved playing golf. He loved to win. And he inspired, as you say, and listening to Susie's statement, you know, I was a 28-year-old kid that he brought in to GE when NBC wanted to get into the cable business, and he was like an older brother to me. And there's thousands of us. You know, he challenged us. We learned that on his knee, he would sometimes beat us up when we didn't have the right answers. He'd then pick us up with a hug, and there was no better friend. And he got so much out of life. I think, you know, that he loved every minute of life, and whether he was on the golf course or whether he was in the he loved to win. And he inspired so many of us. And when you look back at GE, it was the #1 market cap company in the world. But the thing that Jack was most proud of, the thing he would talk about was we're building value for retirees, that there were more retirees in America that own GE stock than any other stock. And we have to come in Saturdays. We got to work all night. We have to create value. And he was incredible energy. And he had great love. You know, it was, I loved him, and it was a gift. I would always wonder, you know, had this happened? Everybody that was in his orbit got a chance to really just get on that roller coaster ride, which was just an extraordinary ride.
Well, he was certainly proud of you as well. And in terms of you becoming a CEO, I wonder, David, to what extent do you think about, or did you certainly earlier in your career as a CEO, think about some of the lessons and perhaps model certain behaviors as well in terms of how you run Discovery?
Well, very much. You know, we'd be presenting to Jack every acquisition that we made at NBC, all of our deals. And over a period of time, you would start to think like him, because he was tough. And he, as you said, he wanted to know every detail. He wanted to know what was the plan to turn it around, what was the plan to win, and it rubbed off on you. I mean, I remember about 2 years ago when we acquired Scripps. I was on an earnings call, and the analysts were talking about the industry and how difficult the industry was, and how subscribers were declining and it was being disrupted. And I got off the earnings call, and he called me up and he said, "Get over to my house right now." And he had read all of the earnings calls for all the media CEOs, and he said, "You're all doing the wrong thing. You can't change the ecosystem." He said, "Your story is that when you bought Scripps, you had $1.4 billion in free cash flow. They had $600, and together you're going to generate another $1 billion in free cash flow. That's your story. You're a free cash flow machine." And when you have cash in a difficult environment, then it's like a moat. And the cash gives you flexibility, and it gives you an ability to win even in a difficult environment. So the way Jack thought was different than anybody else. And, you know, to the very end, I was with him 2 weeks ago, and he was still completely, we're talking about the old days. We were talking about life. And he never stopped living to the very end. It's sad. It's tough, because we all thought Jack would live forever. He was that big of a figure.
I think we all know what you mean by that, David. You know, we had Larry Culp on a moment ago, and he talked about the ways in which Jack made GE a truly global company. You talk about visiting him in recent weeks. I wonder, can you share at all what he thought about how people's perceptions of global companies, globalization, they've changed? I wonder if Jack's did as well.
Well, Jack set the path. One of the most interesting things about spending time with Jack in those days at GE was he saw the whole world. He was above the globe, essentially. There were very few I don't know if there was any company that was above the globe. And he was hands-on, so he was traveling all over the world. And with all the businesses that GE had and GE Capital, he had a better sense, what are people buying? How are things going in Latin America? What's going on in Asia? Where should we be investing? So when we presented acquisitions to Jack, he would look at our acquisitions, our suggestion, but he would compare it with what was going on at Aircraft Engine or what was available to GE Capital. So Jack was really on top of he was above the globe in a way that I don't think any CEO has ever been, and he pioneered it. This whole idea of going around the world and having that kind of scale and then using that scale to be number one. It was always about being number one. If you were on the golf course with him, it was about winning. But it was about winning by working harder than everybody else. It was about winning by fighting harder than everyone else. And, he was, what he created at GE it became in some ways it became the way that companies now operate, this whole global idea,
Yeah. David, I wonder, finally, it's been over 19 years since he stepped down as CEO. GE has changed a great deal and obviously had a very tough run. Was he disappointed at all in what's happened or what had happened to the company? And did he care or did he think about his own legacy in that way?
I think Jack was extraordinarily proud, and all of us that were passengers on that ride, that incredible ride that Jack had, that we were like a family, and we were just really lucky, all of us, to be on that. And Jack really focused on, he and Susie found an extraordinary love, and he and his family and friends. And so I think Jack moved on and just focused on being happy and spending time with Susie and his family and playing golf, a lot of golf in Nantucket. Nobody loved life more than Jack. To the very end, he fought for every day. And that's the biggest lesson, is big heart and loving life.
Amen. Amen. David, thank you for sharing some reflections. We appreciate it. David Zaslav. Jack Welch was 84 years old.